events of the last couple of weeks must have brought back all sorts of memories for you. Have you dealt with it?
I've never believed I will see a picture what I should go through again. And everything that happened to Sergei Skripal and his daughter, I still can't believe it. And of course, when it's all about Russia, and when it started to be blamed Russia, it all took me back to my experience, to my life, almost 12 years ago.
We first met 12 years ago, didn't we? Just short of 12 years ago. How have you rebuilt your life since then? I remember meeting you, and you were, if you don't mind me saying, you were broken. You had no idea which way to turn. Your English wasn't great because Sasha, Alexander, had always, been the man of the house, hadn't he? He had been this strong ox, and we saw what happened to him and how he deteriorated in hospital. But you have come from that mouse to a lioness that took on a bear.
I can't believe we do this again, really. I remember this, everything what we did almost 12 years ago, my first interview, and now I have to talk about this after 12 years. And it was, from one side, it was a good life because I have my son, who is grow up now. He's a young man, 23 years old, and I hope he's going to have a good future. But another side, it was life of fighting for justice, fighting for the name of my husband, to prove everything what he tried to say, and to bring kind of justice for what Sasha actually deserved.
How do you remember those days 12 years ago when he was in hospital, and you didn't know that it was plutonium-210 until the very last minute, did you?
It was difficult because when you're talking about this, and what do you remember? But when it was in the present days, then it was everyday hope he will survive. I believe till last moment he will alive. And he was a fighter as well. He didn't know it's polonium-210. He didn't know what kind of radioactivity is killing him. But when we received some kind of medical treatment, we believed Sasha will survive. But he couldn't, because after his death, polonium-210 was discovered, and it was explained to me from the first moment Sasha inhaled this radioactive material, he would be not able to survive.
How worried were you for yourself and for Anatoly? I remember at the time we did the interview at my house because no London hotel would let us film there because they were worried that you were radioactive.
Oh, you're absolutely right. And after what we received, I couldn't even imagine what my life is going to be, because radioactive polonium, what does it? Even police who started this investigation, they did tell me, Marina, we don't know how to handle this, because nobody before was killed by polonium-210. And all what happened in my house, we should left house. Even we did stay for 23 days, stay in the house before Sasha was poisoned, after Sasha was poisoned, and only after his death when polonium-210 was discovered. Everybody understands how the danger. I received some calls from my place where I worked as a teacher. If we need to deactivate this place where you did work, and I just started to realize, oh my God, what people might think about me. Maybe I will lose all my communication, because this was frightening. We were waiting for tests from Health Protection Agency because our son Anatoly couldn't go to school. All parents were, again, very nervous what it might be. Even my close contact received the same offer to be checked because it might be, again, nobody could understand how it might be produced. I was so glad not Anatoly, not any others have any polonium in their body. And I had slightly higher level, but doctor...
I remember they said to me, you mustn't touch her, you mustn't shake her hand.
Yes.
The glass that you drank from
Yes.
had to be destroyed. But when I saw you, I wanted to hug you because you were a broken woman. So you know how people who are related to those that are caught up, not just those presently in hospital, but others who have subsequently died, must be feeling at the moment.
Absolutely, and I felt after what I went through in 1 year particularly, I just wanted to see people who been not in the same situation like me, but the same in hospital, because Sasha was treated for 2.5 weeks in a Barnet hospital, like a normal, like a person having just like some ordinary problems. And of course people around him, all this medical stuff, they've been contaminated too. And I just try every time to understand what these people came through, what was difficult to them. And I remember when it was 1 year anniversary, I went to this hospital. And I went to the same unit when Sasha started all his last days of his life. And I knew I was a little bit angry then because people didn't treat him from what actually Sasha had, radiation poisoning. In some moments I was very angry because nobody could explain me what happened to them. But when I came in 1 year, I just said, thank you very much for everything what you did, even you didn't know. And it was very special for me.
12 years on, we are where we are. Do you worry for your own safety and also for the safety of Anatoly? You are very outspoken, but he is too. He's spoken to the newspapers. He's even written his own article, hasn't he, in the Sunday Times?
Yes, but it just started for him. He never been so active. Of course, he was young, and I think he tried to protect himself of not being so outspoken because he wanted to be a normal teenager. He wanted to go to play with his friends. He wanted to go to clubs. And of course, being recognized, you are son of Alexander Litvinenko, in some moments he didn't feel he's ready. Now when he published his article under his name, Anatoly Litvinenko, I was very proud of this.
Of course you were.
As a mom, of course. But when I try to think, do I need to be frightening or do I need to think more about my safeties? But I do what is a normal person or woman who lost her husband in this way must do or can do.
But you've seen your friends die. One just last week was killed.
But I believe, for what Sasha said before, people might die because it's all about money. Unfortunately, it was so difficult to believe in 2002 when Sasha gave a lot of interviews and he was filmed by international companies, and he said every time, this new Russia state without any ideology has only one thing, it's money. And if you stop them to earn money in a way what they want, you might be enemy of the state. What I said, I'm not representing any party, any financial corporation. I'm not about that. And I hope it will not cost something in my life.
Tell us about your friend who died last week. His death is now being treated as a murder investigation.
We're talking about Nikolai Glushkov. And when I received this news first, almost 1 week ago, I understand it looked, again, I didn't know exactly all details, but I tried to think he was not killed, because I didn't like to understand if somebody from this very special circle of people here in London might be killed. And I was waiting for a police report. And when police report delivered, he was killed. I was absolutely shocked because this guy, he was not so active spoken compared to Boris Berezovsky, because he's from the same circle. But he's still fighting for his right in his own business. And I know he was in this legal process. Was it price of what he did? And maybe he was killed for this? I don't know, because it would be my opinion. But I believe investigation of his death would be taking a very serious compared to other people. Now we can talk about this list of people with 14 names. And it's not only Russian, this is British as well, nationalities. But they have all...
Originally Russian, now British citizens.
Not only, it's a British.
Okay.
But what's a strong link between all of them is the business with Russia.
President Putin has been speaking about it, and he has said it's absolute nonsense to suggest that he or any of his agents or representatives would be in any way responsible for what has happened, both with Skripal in Salisbury and also with your friend who sadly died. Absolutely nothing to do with the Russian government or with him.
Is it anything new you received from Mr. Putin? If he ever said, yes, we did it. We have just recent examples about annexation of Crimea. To remember how he denied everything. He said it was not us, it was not our military force, but in 2 years he said, yes, we did it. And what? And what you're going to do? And it's his absolutely way how to do this international community and his foreign politics. And for me, it's nothing new for what he said. It's not us.
Do you hold him responsible? Do you think he is responsible?
All attitude what Russia produced now after was saying, yes, this nerve agent what was used against Sergei Skripal and his daughter, it just shows, yes, he did it. Because not any signs of feeling to cooperate, not any signs of saying we are very sorry for these people. It's just a very arrogant comments in a so high level in a foreign office. I'm really ashamed. I don't like to see Russian diplomats or Russian authorities or even Russian president being like that.
Do you think he has a case to answer over your friend's death?
Again, it's a difficult to blame immediately person, but when we're talking about how people here just connecting to Russian business, and if they cross these very serious money things, you might be killed from these people from Russia, because how we know all government now controlled by security service. All they control all sources as oil and gas, and they collected all this money from this business. And sometimes we even can't imagine what kind of money we're talking about. And why after very successful moment when the price of oil was so high, Russia couldn't develop any better life for their own citizen? Because most of this money collected and used not for state, but for their own lives.
What's your view on the Russian election? He won again yesterday, last night with a landslide victory. Some suggestions of voting irregularity. Do you have a view on that?
You know, I tried to think about this, and I thought I like Russian people, like everybody loves Russian people. They love Russian culture, they like Russian history. And when they see what happened during this election and how Russian people support Putin, go to this and vote for him, I just try to remember what happened to Russian people in Stalin era. And they've been the same, they believed to this guy, and they believed he's a father of Russia. Even he killed so many people, and life was so tough. And it makes me feel very, very nervous about this, because when it was Brezhnev, we can call this era, in the 70s, people have been very cynical. They understand everything what's saying through all state channels is not true. And they've been more cynical. But today, some of them not cynical, they really believed Putin wants to protect them from West, and West wants to destroy Russia.
So you're comparing Putin with Stalin?
In a way, even not Putin, Stalin, but how people believed. And more about this. I hope Putin not going to kill people like Stalin, because we live in a different era. We live in a quite open space, and you can completely block from information. But for what Putin does, it's very similar, reminding me this period of time in Russia, and ideology works in a very similar way. And I'm very, very sorry. Because
you think the Russian people believe in him, and so you don't think there were irregularities with the polling? You actually think that everyone that voted for him because they think that he is protecting them from the West?
Not everybody, but some of them, yes. And when you can see picture of these Russian people, when you can ask them, you see they really believed. It was really, really frightening me, because educational still not enough for people, and just watching state channels was absolutely propaganda style, and not collected any other information. It make it possible. Only hope it's a young generation. They are different.
So the only hope is youngsters coming through.
Yes, but
he is president for another 6 years now, I think, isn't he?
Yes, it's supposed to. We will see what is going to be. Is he going to change constitution, or he will take example of Chinese to change constitution and stay forever? I don't know. We will see. But he has a lot.
Do you think that's a possibility, that he could change the law again, as he did with Prime Minister and President, in order to be able to be in power until he dies?
I will not be surprised. I will not surprised. Because this man represents the special people around him. It's just not about Mr. Putin. It's more about representation of people who support him on his way.
What do you mean by that?
Because he couldn't do anything himself without this support. And we know he represents a military, people from military office, people from security office, and some people from intelligence service office, and doesn't mean they're all united. It's absolutely different groups, and he needs to deliver everything what the people want.
So he's a mouthpiece to a certain extent.
Yes, and I can't see he has a very easy life, but for what
you
he
have no
did,
sympathy for him, though.
Absolutely, but what he did for all these 18 years, he is now a slave of this system. And why he can't just say, okay, is the next person to be after me? Because he can't. He built this system, and now he suffered from this, but no sympathy.
Do you think that the British government is doing enough to protect Russians that have fled to the United Kingdom?
I would be the first person who should criticize British government, but how I do understand, it's sometimes difficult to understand what might happen, because you expect from Russia as civilian country and playing in the same rules what other international society plays. But when you do one step and show your all diplomacy, it doesn't mean from Russia side it would be accepted. Everything what British government did before, it was taking as a just very soft or even very weak. And of course, Russia side didn't say we're going to do anything. And I hope next steps what British government has to do, it needs to be more stronger. They need
in what way? What can the British government do? What would you like to see Theresa May do as a result of what's happened in Salisbury, also what's potentially happened to your friend? I mean, you've waited how long for a public inquiry? A dozen years?
Yes, but again, I just very optimistic person, maybe too much optimistic even after what happened to me. But I think you need to accept what you did not right and not to do the same mistakes. And when we try to talk what is the better things to do, I already mentioned, it's all about money. If you want to punish these people, make it possible not to spend their money here in Europe, not to accept this money to your business. I'm not talking about all Russia. I'm talking about certain people, and it have to be very personal sanctions. And it's a very serious moment when we say about sanction, but some people, like people from military office, from security service, you could say they're already not traveling to UK or to Europe, but they're members or members of their family, they have everything here.
So you think punitive financial sanctions against certain people that have benefited from the way Russia has been run since the 1990s?
It's not new, because we're talking about Magnitsky Law. What was provided by American state, it was accepted some European countries, but it's not accepted here. Why? why. I have this question. Why it's so difficult?
Why do you think it is?
I think it is some, if I may say,
Please.
it's some kind of mentality. If you have this money, you're able to invest to business here in UK, it's good for country. But now we live in a different world and need to understand what money you accept.
So basically we're taking blood money and we need to
Exactly.
not do that.
Exactly. You don't need, because you accept...
Would you describe it as that? How would you describe it?
No, I just said you accepted this money, you agreed these people come to your country and do what they want, and means you give this right then to commit this crime. Because these people know they can do what they want, and it would be nothing. Nobody would be punished, because British government just too good behave. And
So the British government, to a certain extent, has blood on its hands as well as a result of allowing this money to flow freely into the country.
But we need to understand how this British government worked all this time, because when we're talking about 18 years, yes, we could say it was all-time Putin. But for these 18 years, we had a few different prime ministers, we have a different governments. It should be very clear how each government in each period, what happened.
Can I ask you what you thought about Jeremy Corbyn and some of the comments that he made in the House of Commons last week?
I can't say people naive, but sometimes I hope there's nothing behind of this, because I don't like to blame people of being corrupted or doing this because of money, what is very common when you're talking about Russia politics. But again, sometimes when you meet people, they try to think about Russia in a better way. And when they try to give Russia another chance, or when he doesn't believe it might happen in Russia, I just try to understand what he was being motivated of his feeling he loves Russia, or because somebody asked him to do this. Really difficult. No, for me, it's difficult to blame him. And
do you think he's naive?
It would be very strange to say about politicians for a long time in politics to be naive, and difficult, you know.
Will you ever go back to Russia?
I haven't not been for 18 years, and every time when I think it's time to go, something happened. Like what happened now with Sergei Skripal, what happened to Nikolai Glushkov, and or sometimes what happened inside of Russia, when I would say innocent people just put to prison for post in their Facebook. I could not believe, and how the all-out system works. But sometimes I think it might be nothing happened to me, and when I come to Russia, it would be everything is fine. I would be so sad, because I waste my time. I could not see my mom for a long time. I couldn't go to funeral of my father. You know, it's very difficult to understand what was right to do, what was not right, because it's all about people who I love, who I love and who I want to see. But I have my son here, and I don't think he would be happy if something happened to me in Russia. And I just try to be in a balance what I need to do for now.
Okay. Sure.
Yeah. Particularly when I talk to my mom about my mom, it's every time very difficult, because she could travel to me all this time, but after my father died, he started to feel she's not able to travel to anymore, and she believes everything is fine. I can go to Moscow, nothing will happen to me. And it's more funny when she said, Marina, don't say nothing, don't say something wrong. I say, Mommy, what do you think wrong? Don't say something illegal. I say, what does it mean illegal? No, maybe it would be against Putin or against this one. I say, Mommy, I can't. And for her, I would shut up and just go to Russia, because she just wants me to be in Russia.
Thanks for talking to us.